Hi Year 8, this is our second lesson for algebra, and in this lesson we're going to look at algebraic fractions. Here's what we've learnt so far. All about algebraic expressions and terms, how to multiply and divide, like terms and how to add and subtract like terms, and all about grouping symbols. Now algebraic fractions follow the same rules as for numerical fractions, and they also follow the rules for algebra. Now before we get on to algebraic fractions, let's revise the techniques for numerical fractions. We're going to begin with multiplication because it's the easiest. So here's a question: a half times 3/7. Alright, all we've got to do is multiply across the top and then multiply across the bottom. Okay, across the top, 1 times 3 is 3. Along the bottom, 2 times 7 is 14. There's our answer. Sometimes we need to cancel, like in this question. Let's do our multiplication first. 3 times 2 is 6. 4 times 5 is 20. Now you can see that top and bottom there we've got a common factor of 2, so we can cancel it out. So 2 into 6 goes 3 times, and 2 into 20 goes 10 times. And so our answer is 3/10. Now here's the trick. We can cancel before we do the multiplication, and that makes our life a little bit easier. Let's have a look at the same question. Can you see the 2 on the top and a 4 on the bottom? We can do the cancelling there. So 2 into 2 goes once, and 2 into 4 goes twice. Now let's do the multiplication. 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 5 is 10. Same answer, but a little bit easier to do. Now you might be wondering, why can we cancel across fractions like that? Why can I cancel a numerator on this fraction with a denominator on this fraction? Well, it's because multiplication is commutative. Now, you learnt that in Year 7. It means that you can turn it around. 3 times 2 is exactly the same as 2 times 3. Let's look at that same question. See how I've switched these around here? It's the same question because 3 times 2 is the same as 2 times 3. But now look at this. 2 over 4 is the same as a half. Let's move on to dividing fractions. Our key phrase is keep, change, flip. And what do I mean by that? We're going to keep this fraction the same, change the sign to a times, flip this fraction or find the reciprocal. So it's going to become a half times 7 over 3. Now this question has now been reduced to something we already know how to do, which is multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions, we multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom. 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 3 is 6. So there's our answer. We don't need to change that. We can leave it as an improper fraction. Let's try one more. 3/4 divided by 5/6. Keep the first one the same, change the sign to a times, flip the second one. 3/4 times 6 on 5. Now what can you see there? I can see a common factor of 2. So I'm going to say 2 into 4 goes twice, and 2 into 6 goes 3 times. Okay, across the top, 3 times 3 is 9. Across the bottom, 2 times 5 is 10. There's our answer, 9/10. And finally, adding and subtracting fractions. So remember, when we're adding and subtracting, we have to have the same denominator. So we've got 3/7 plus 2/7. Then the denominators are the same, so altogether we've got 5/7. Now, if the denominators are not the same, we have to change one or both of them. Now, we need a common denominator. One way to get that is to multiply these two numbers, but in this case, that's a bit of overkill because all we need to do is multiply top and bottom by 2 here, and we're going to get 6ths on the bottom. So remember, whatever you do to the bottom, that's times 2 there, we've got to do to the top times 2. Okay, so let's rewrite that. We're going to get 5/6 plus 2/6. Now because the denominators are the same, we can add across the top. That gives us 7 over 6. Here's one more. 5/7 take 1/3. Now in this case we need to change both of them because 3 and 7, the lowest common multiple of those two numbers is 3 times 7. So one quick way to do that is to multiply these two together. That's going to give us 21. And then cross multiply like this. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then across here, 7 times 1 is 7. You may be familiar with that technique, sometimes called butterfly fractions. So I've got 15 on 21, take 7 on 21. And now our denominators are the same, so we can subtract across the top. 15 take 7 is 8 over 21. Okay, we're finally ready to move on to algebraic fractions. So we'll start with multiplying because it's the easiest. So remember, we've got to multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. The bottom's easy, it's going to give us 15. But you can see how on the top we're going to have to follow our algebraic rules. What's 4m multiplied by 2n? So we start with the numbers. 4 times 2 is 8, and then our pronumerals in alphabetical order. So here's our answer, 8mn on 15. Here's another one. Multiply across the top gives us a squared. Multiply across the bottom gives us 21. Answer, a squared on 21. And one more. What about this one? xy on 2 multiplied by 3x. Now that 3x is actually 3x on 1. So that might help us a little bit. Okay, now we're going to multiply across the top. What's that going to be? We've got 3, x times x is x squared, y. So 3x squared y on top, and on the bottom, 2. There's our answer. And just like with normal fractions, we might need to cancel. And we're going to cancel first before we do the multiplication. What can you see there that can cancel? Can you see 2 and 4 have a common factor of 2? So 2 into 2 goes once, and 2 into 4 goes twice. All right, now we're ready to multiply. 3m multiplied by n is 3mn, and on the bottom, 2 times 5 is 10. There's our answer. Okay, one more. 4x on 5 multiplied by 10y on 3x. We've got two things that can cancel here. Firstly, these x's can cancel. And secondly, 5 goes into 10 twice. There's a 1 there. All right, let's multiply across the top. 4 times 2y is 8y. On the bottom, 1 times 3 is 3. There's our answer, 8y on 3. Moving on to dividing algebraic fractions. Same method, keep, change, flip. Here's our first question. X over 5 divided by y over 3. So we're going to keep this the same, change the sign to a times, flip the second fraction. Okay, nothing cancels there, so we can multiply across the top, gives us 3x. Multiply across the bottom, gives us 5y. There's our answer. How about this one? AB on 4 divided by A on 2. Keep, change, flip. Okay, a couple of things can cancel here. The A's cancel, and there's a common factor of 2. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. All right, multiply across the top. B times 1 is B. 2 times 1 is 2. So our answer is B on 2. Last one. 2x squared over 3 divided by 4x. So remember, this is 4x over 1. So when I flip it, I'm going to get 1 on 4x. Keep, change, flip. Okay, a few things can cancel here as well. The 2, so 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice, and I've got a common factor of an x. So remember that this is x times x, and this is just a single x down here, so it's going to cancel with one of those. So I'm just going to take away the power. Hope that makes sense to you. What are we left here with? I've got x times 1, that's x, and on the bottom 3 times 2 is 6. You can do that in more steps if you want to. Moving on to adding and subtracting. So if denominators are the same, we add or subtract the numerators. So have a look at that question. We do have the same denominator, it's 5, so we can add across the top. 2m plus 1m is 3m. Here's our answer, 3m on 5. How about this one? 10a divided by 11, take away 5a divided by 11. Common denominator of 11, subtract across the top. 10a take 5a is 5a. So there's our answer. We still have to follow our algebra rules though. What do you think I'm talking about? I'm talking about like terms. Have a look at this question. 2x on 5 plus 3y on 5. We do have a common denominator. It's 5. We can add across the top, but I can't simplify 2x plus 3y. Okay, they're not like terms. So here's our answer. I've managed to make a single fraction, but the numerator, that's as simple as it gets. I have to leave it as 2x plus 3y. Of course, when the denominators are not the same, we have to make them the same. Here's our first example, m on 2 plus m on 4. Now, we try and do the simplest thing possible. We could multiply the denominators and get 8, but we don't need to. We only need to change that first one. So how do we change halves into quarters? We're going to multiply it by 2. So timesing that by 2, whatever I do to the bottom, I've got to do to the top. Okay, let's rewrite that. 2m on 4 plus m on 4. Our denominators are now the same. Add across the top. 2m plus m is 3m. Here's another example. 2a on 5, take away a on 4. Now this time, our lowest common multiple of 5 and 4 is 5 times 4, which is 20. So we're going to multiply these two together. And I'm just going to put the 20 in there. So that's been timesed. Cross multiply. 4 times 2a is 8a. And 5 times a is 5a. Rewrite. Gives us 8a on 20, take away 5a on 20. Our denominators are the same. Subtract the numerators. 8a take 5a is 3a. Last one. xy on 3 plus 2xy on 7. Again, lowest common multiple of 3 and 7 is 3 times 7, which is 21. Cross multiply, 7 times xy. I'm just going to put that in there, save me writing it. And then 3 times 2xy is 6xy. All right, 7xy on 21 plus 6xy on 21. Add across the top, 13xy on 21. Now with adding and subtracting, sometimes we might need to cancel at the end. That's okay. Here's an example, 7x on 12, take x on 4. What are we going to do? We don't want to multiply these two together. We'd get 48. It'd be hard to cancel. Let's just change this one into twelfths. Times top and bottom by 3. Okay, so we're going to get 7x on 12, take away 3x on 12. Have a look how I've gone from that into this. All right, denominators are the same, 12. 7x take 3x is 4x. Can you see the common factor? It's 4. 4 goes into 4 once, and 4 goes into 12 3 times. So our answer is x on 3. Okay, last thing for this lesson is about order of operations. So I'm going to tie this all together. The things that you need to remember: BODMAS, which is your order of operations, your fraction methods, and your algebraic methods. Here's an example, simplify fully. b on 4 plus b on 3 in brackets, all divided by b on 2. So we're going to do our brackets first, and inside those brackets is an addition of fractions with different denominators. So let's do that part first. Okay, lowest common multiple of 4 and 3 is 12. So let's multiply those two together. And then we're going to cross multiply. 3 times b is 3b. And over this side, 4 times b is 4b. Okay, let's rewrite that. So 3b on 12 plus 4b on 12. Denominators are the same, add across the top. 3b plus 4b is 7b. Don't try and rush these questions, just do them step by step, methodically. All right, now we're up to division. We're going to keep, change, flip. So keep the 7b on 12, change the sign, flip the b on 2. All right, what cancels here? These b's cancel, and the 2 and the 12. So 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 12 6 times. All right, now we've got to rewrite it. We've got 7 times 1 on top, which is 7, and 6 times 1, which is 6. So it's actually 7 on 6. There's no pronumeral in that. Okay, that brings us to the end of this lesson. In our next lesson, we're going to look at expanding brackets.